You who are unfamiliar, how dare you? But PC Cast is a New York Times and USA Today bestseller. We have had the absolute fortune to having PC at our old location, and we're so happy to have her back finally in the new location, years and a panini in between. So let's all give a round of applause for PC Cast for Earth Called, the final book in the Tales of the New World series. Yay!
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to see you here. You guys are awesome. Thank you for coming. I'm so excited to be out seeing people again. It's just, this is the first time I've toured since the Rona. And that's why we're doing masks, because this is my last stop, actually. And if I don't get sick on this tour, I'm going to keep touring. Yeah. And I have an August release, so I'll tour for that in August then. Yay. God, it's so nice to see everyone again. It's been so much fun. I've been having a great time. So I want to tell you, okay, have you guys read the first 3 books yet? Yeah. You guys, okay. So the story on why it took so long for this, 4 years for the 4th one to come out, was, so Wind Rider came out in mid-October 2018. And November 9th, 2018, I had a really terrible horse accident. It wasn't Angel's fault. She had told me I had to say that disclaimer. Because Angel really is my mare. She's really, you guys know if you follow me on anything, you guys love seeing videos and stuff of her, so I'm posting her all the time, right? Wasn't her fault, was a massive, horrible accident, though. Actually, I've been riding since about kindergarten, since I was in kindergarten, and it's the worst accident I've ever had on a horse. And I've done some crazy shit on a horse. Okay, so I figured I was due anyway. But while so my agent, who was in the retirement mode, my old agent, she sold the first 3 books of this series to Macmillan. And I knew then it would be at least 4. And she said, don't worry about it. When you come towards the end, we'll do another. I mean, it's how we did House and Night. It happens a lot, right? You sell the first books, and then when you're partway through, they're, So I was like, okay. So about the time we should have been negotiating for this book, I was trying not to die, which I'm successful, okay? And look, I can even lift my arm and everything's fine. I had to have surgery and all sorts of crap, but I couldn't write for months and months and months. And when I finally got where I could, where I was me again, my new agent contacted Macmillan and said, whoa, what about the 4th book? What about the 4th book? And they were like, she's massively behind. She just is coming off of a long stint of not writing because of this accident. Let's get her caught up, and then we'll talk about the 4th book. So that answer, though, kept going on. And that agent, who I only was with for about a year-ish, kept telling me, just forget it. And I kept hearing from you guys, though. And these books spent a combined 26 weeks on the Times list. So, and I love this world. It's I love this world. So I made a promise to myself and to you guys that I would write this book in my spare time. Because I'm always writing 2 books at once, almost always. I can't do 3 at once, so it's really hard for me. I tried really hard, but it won't work. My brain, I don't know, but I can do 2. But so I started working on it in my spare time, which is like you guys having a second job and not being paid for it, and just hoping perhaps someday you might get some compensation. So that's why it took me 3 years to write it. I decided that the agent I had for a year wasn't a good fit for me, especially because she said it was okay to just forget about this. No, I was like, no. And so I've been with my new agent. She's not really new anymore. Rebecca Sherritt, Jane Rotrosen Agency. She's lovely. And she's like my cheerleader. Yeah. And she went to Macmillan almost as soon as I signed with her. And I had the manuscript, I just finished it. And she went to Macmillan to my editor there, Monique Patterson. And she said, she's done with this. Do you guys want to consider publishing it? Or she's going to publish it. She's going to self-publish. And she read it, she was like, oh yeah, we'll publish it. All those years? Okay. So that's how this happened. Okay. So, people want to know, is this the fourth and final book? Of Mari's story, yes. Of Mari's story. I just love my street team right up front. So Mari's story is concluding this book. Has anyone finished it yet? I know you guys, it takes me 3 years. Okay? 2.5 hours, and they're like, are you sure it's not going to be another one? I'm like, it's right now. And it's not even short. Okay. But
brand new Scotties you can write about.
I always have Scotties. You
I
know
know.
that.
Kit Kat.
Care Bear, Captain Kirk, and the Mighty Con. They're at summer camp right now, having a really good time. Xena Warrior Princess Cass, my Maine Coon, is not having fun. She's at the Bougie Cat's Ball. She doesn't care. She's not happy cat. And the Scotties are just, can't go away, woman. We're having fun. I'm like, ugh. Anyway, this is the end of her story, Mari's story. You will see by the epilogue that I did open a door to 2 more stories. Whale Singer and Skytalker. I have a couple that I want to tell. Whether I get to tell them or not depends solely on sales. It's a business. If it sells real well, then I'll have my agent say, hey, she has an idea for 2 more, and we'll see what McMillan does then. I for sure won't be working on another one for 3 years. Okay. To have them have to go, oh yeah, sure, we'll publish it. Thank you. But I do have ideas for a couple more, always. I have a release in August 8th, the second book in my Apocalypse. Does anyone have Into the Mist? Yeah, you have the tag.
Well, we have it at the front if you need it.
Okay. Into the Mist is was my response to the 2020 pandemic, and in the Pacific Northwest, that was the smoke apocalypse summer, where Portland was completely smoked in. We couldn't go anywhere, including outside. It was bad. If I didn't have a mask on, you'd see that I have a scar right here, and from a fire. And I can't see because of my tattoos, but I was in a really bad fire when I was a young girl, and so fire freaks me the hell out. I'm just like, no, and I couldn't flee, so I was like, sitting on the couch eating cheese, drinking wine, and smoking weed. That's what I was doing. It's not, it's 20 pounds. Okay, it's just like that. I'm like, whoa, wait a second. But I told myself, Phyllis, you always escape into your worlds. Go down and create your own apocalypse. So I did. That's Into the Mist. It's about a group of high school teachers from Oklahoma. Perhaps people we know or have known. Or were perhaps working out from Oklahoma. They're in Timberline. That's a really cool resort that's about an hour outside Portland. And they're at a spring break conference. And fictional, because that was way too nice a place for teachers to have spring break conferences at. I mean, seriously, pay you $30,000 a year and take it. No, it doesn't happen. But it's fiction, okay? So they're leaving, and as they come back, the apocalypse happens. And a biological element's released that, sorry, kills all men. Sorry, I'm just saying. Not all the men in the book died.
I would too. Don't worry about it.
And it goes on from there. But it when women breathe it in, it gives us powers, depending on who we are and who we are at our core. And it was a lot of fun. I say that it's the book about lying women and weed, because I will make you laugh really hard during this book. It's real gross too, and the body count's high, but I promise it's funny. Part 2 of that comes out in August 8th. I'm totally toured for that, but I love it. It's a lot of fun. And then Kristen and I have a brand new series debuting next spring. It's called, the first book's called Draw Down the Moon. We go back to a magical school. And the magical school is on a cloaked island off the Pacific Northwest. And it's a brand new kind of magic based on the moon. That's really all I can say right now. Except that it's finished. We're in the edit process. It's finished, and it was so much fun. We told it first person, present tense point of view from both our main characters. Kristen chose one, I chose the other. I'm not going to tell you who chose who. You'll have to read it and guess who wrote which one. But it was a whole lot of fun. It was a whole lot of fun. I think you guys are going to like it a lot. And then next summer, I have a big change going on. I sold a manuscript at auction to my dream publisher, William Morrow, and my dream editor, Rachel Kahn. It's the first book they want to make me the voice of Forgotten Queens. And the first book is a telling of Boudica's life. She was the Celtic queen who united the Britons against the Romans in 60 and 61 AD. And she had an army of about 250,000. She almost pushed him out of Great Britain. I think you will love her.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh, God, I love her. Her story is she's magnificent. I just love her. I sold 2 books to them. The second book is going to be the true story of the Pictish queen, Skyach from House Knight. So I'm going to tell her, and then I'll continue to I'd like to tell Medea's story. There are a whole lot. There's some Irish women I'd like to tell. There's always a lot. So, what's happening with House of Night TV series is everything's pretty much dead right now because of the writer's strike, which I'm 150% behind. Pay them what they're worth, okay? God, like you can do anything without us? AI, come on.
Oh.
All right, yeah, try it. Oh, whatever. But we're ready to go. So encourage your favorite network to pick us up. We have a great script. We have a director. We're ready to go whenever we get picked up. So I think that is my beginning spiel, all of my things. One of the things I love about this world so much is that I populated it with all my pets. Okay, all of my pets, and all of a whole bunch of my friends' pets too. Even though some of them I made into different things, like Dr. Griffin's assistant, Michaela or Kayla, whichever I put in there. It's a real daughter, and it's also a friend of mine. Their dog is a small, very sweet, puppy kind of doodle thing. And her name, she's cocoa color. And her name is Minka. And I turned her into a horse. I did that sometimes. Okay. But the entire series was based on the canine that's on the cover of Moon Chosen, which is my personal protection canine, Badger. And LaRue is very heavily based on Badge. I had a stalker during House of Night.
Oh, I remember that.
Ugh, not even a good time at all. And so to enable me to not be freaked out all the time and to have some freedom, I got a personal protection canine, and that was my badge. And we had this amazing connection. And I was finishing House of Night, wondering what I was going to write next. I love fantasy, so I know it would be fantasy. And you guys already know from House of Night, I like to put, animals and stuff in there. And from my other books. I mean, the first book I ever had published was Divine by Mistake. And I made the hero half horse, half man, okay? It's just how, yeah. Clarence Vinton. Oh, God, that's such an old copy.
I hunted this version.
Oh, my God.
I was gonna say, we were working these together.
It's so old because it's the original one from the small press when it first came out. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my if you open it up like this, you can see the whole painting. It's a real painting, done by my artist girlfriend Kim Donor from Tulsa, and it's big, it's huge. She gave it to me and had it framed.
No.
Or yeah, that was the very first cover on the very first title and everything. But so I put so LaRue is Badger, and then I decided, hell, I'm just gonna put like all my pets in here. So Cameron is my Cammy cast. They're all of them are either mine or past mine or my friends. And between the writing of Wind Rider and this book, we lost Cammy. He died at a very ripe old age of 14. I expected that, but it was a beautiful passing. But within 3 weeks, Dad dropped dead in front of me. Had no idea. Just, he had a tumor that wrapped around his great big beautiful heart, and he just passed out and went to sleep and never woke up. So when I dove back into this and started writing this, it was so awesome because Cammy's alive, and Cammy acts just like Cammy. That's Cammy man in here. LaRue is just like that. And so it was so cool to then I have my alive animals in there too, Anjo, the dragon horse, I have them all, but it's so fun to visit where they are and where they're alive, in fiction. And Cammy, this is so much Cammy in here that I even did his tail thing. When Cammy was about 5 or 6, we were out at my ranch, and sometimes you just let your horses graze in the yard. Because it's easier than mowing right away. And, so I remember we were saddling up the horses to go somewhere. And one of my geldings was grazing in the yard. And I was going to put him up before we left. He wasn't coming with us. I can't remember who all was going or whatever. But this I do remember. So Chloe, she's in this book too. She's no longer with us. She thought she could take on a bobcat at my ranch. I like to hope that she believes she won. She did not. Okay. But Chloe was a horse barker. She's a black Scotty horse barker. Bark, 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 bark at all the horse. I'm like, shut up, Chloe. No, bark, 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 bark. So Chloe's here. Bark, 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 bark. Cammy's here journaling. He's just sitting there. He's journaling. We used to say he journaled all the time. That he's just looking, look at the birds, journal, just the whole thing. And then the gelding was here, grazing. Chloe, bark, 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 bark. Gelding got mad and decided he was going to stomp that dog. And he stomped Cammy instead of Chloe. He was bruised. He obviously he was okay. He lived to be 14. Okay, he was bruised, but the worst thing that happened to him was the gelding went and de-sleeved his tail.
Oh.
Guys, it's really yucky. You don't know. And so it had to be amputated because Scotty's tails are not like this. Yeah, like this. That's why I had the mouth grabbed him. When he grabbed him, he sleeved his tail. He had to have it cut off. That's being very accurate. But there's a whole bunch of those little Easter eggs through there that are for real, in real life.
The holes all over the place.
The what?
Digging the holes all over the place.
That dog. When he was diagnosed with bladder cancer, he was given 180 days to live. And I got 2 more years. After those 180 days, I got 2 more years with him. He was super healthy. Not healthy, but because he had cancer, but he had a great quality of life. And what I did was gave him enough CBD for about a 120-pound dog every 4 to 8 hours for 2 years, 2.5 years. But also, I decided to take away all of Cammy's stress. All of Cammy's stress gets to go away, which means he got to dig wherever he wanted to. I'll post a picture on Facebook, and I'll show one of the pictures. It's so deep. He's in the hole, and he's peeking out. All you can see here is dug all of that. All of that's a Cammy hole. My hyacinths were supposed to be in there somewhere. Narcissus, no, they're gone. But I loved Cammy more than them. So, and it worked. The little old man lived 2 years plus 180 days. So if your doggies get cancer, I'm really sorry. Give them tons of CBD and take away their stress. It worked for the Cammy man. So that's a pleasure. This series is a pleasure, and my greatest hope is that you guys find this book worth the wait. So, do you guys have any questions for me? Kristen's not here, so I will say anything.
And if you have any questions, oh, take it away from the speaker. If you have any questions, leave the microphone so you don't have to project too loud.
You can ask me anything. It's okay.
Icebreaker.
Do you need life advice? I'm here. Any pets? Anything crazy going on?
All right, I'm going to see if I can do this without feedback. We have a virtual question that says, how do you write more than one book at a time? Don't you get them confused? Great question.
That is an excellent question. I don't get them confused anymore. I first started trying to do this more than a decade ago when I was teaching still. And what I would do is I would work on one book at school, not while I was teaching. Okay. My plan period at lunch, before that kind of stuff. Although I will say that sometimes when they had their assignments and were writing essays, I would, and a kid would come up and ask me a question, and I'd be like, look up at him, and some kid behind him would always be like, she's trying to write. But anyway, I started doing it then, and that was easier for me because I somehow started compartmentalize, because at first I couldn't do it at first. The heroine starts sounding the same. And so I stopped and wrote for a while more, got about another year of experience. And then I tried again. And when I tried in 2 different locations, only writing one book at home, one book at school, that worked. Somehow my brain must have split. I don't know. And I can't get it to triple. I can't do the 3. But that's how it started to work. And then slowly I started to be able to do it at home too. So no, they don't sound, when they sounded alike before, I was like, whoa, stop. Nope, this isn't going to work.
I have a question. So you mentioned the joys of writing some of your characters. Were there any characters that were an absolute slog, or you're like, oh, I have to write for this person?
Yeah, I loathe and despise Thaddeus. Cannot stand him. He got an end that he deserved. I could not stand writing him. Odysseus, his terrier, broke my heart, and I didn't like writing him because it made my heart hurt. But I think he got a good, at the very end was, I think, wrapped things up, full circle for him. And the God of Death I just thought about Trump when I wrote him, and it flowed. There was so much material. I could just go on for so many more books. So I loved it, but it was easy writing. That part was easy writing. All I had to do was turn on the news for a moment for inspiration. I'd be like, oh yeah, I remember what an asshole you are. Okay, turn it off. So that, yes.
And I imagine that's also where more wine and cheese and stuff came into play.
Wine, cheese. Yeah. No, I can't. If I drink while I have a habit of, if I didn't have a mask on, I would be, as I speak, I would be drinking water. I trained myself to do that when I started teaching, because you should drink about a gallon of water a day. Okay? Believe me, it really helps with everything. And so I train myself while I'm teaching or speaking. I drink water, and then I would go home. And this is many years ago, while I was writing the Goddess Summoning books. I'd go home, and when I started writing at night, I'd pour from the box. And then you have to go in and go like that. An expert, okay. I would pour a glass of wine, and I'd realize around 11 o'clock, I was drunk. And I had to teach the children the next day, right? And so I changed to water. So I I can't drink and write anymore because it's too hard on my system. And I've gone back and reread some of those books, and I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. That's what happened? Okay. It's like, huh. Woo, that was spicy. Good job, girl. That's where don't drink and write. Unless it's water. I do tea too, but I have to stop that. I write at night. I start writing usually about 8 o'clock every night. Not every single night. It depends on where I am with deadlines in my books. But I start writing about 8 o'clock, and I usually end between midnight and 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 in the morning. It just depends on where I am in the book and where my deadlines are.
Thank you. All right. Does anyone have those questions brewing in the brains? You have PC right in front of you.
I have a question.
Doll?
I'm really curious, PC. How do you find your self-authorship experience versus how you feel when you co-author with your daughter?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I really enjoy writing with Kristen. I enjoy that a lot. Kristen didn't write any of the House of Night books with me. Kristen was my teen voice editor for all those books. And she really honed her, she started when she was 19, and she's like, right now, she's old now. She's geriatric. And so she honed her skills editing first before she started writing. And so I already respected her as a professional. She has done editorial work for not just for me, but for other authors and Macmillan Hire. She's a really awesome editor. So then we started actually writing together before Sisters of Salem, but Sisters of Salem was our first big co-author project. And she has made me be a better writer, as in a more organized writer. When I write with Kristen, she calls it going rogue. So in order for me not to do that, what we do is we brainstorm, and then we sit down and we literally outline every chapter of the book. I hate doing that so much. I would much rather write 150,000 words than out. And in the chapter by chapter outline, we always put our character's name, and depending on whose characters in the chapter, a lead in the chapter is who writes the chapter. Usually we go back and forth every other chapter. And we outline, our outline is so specific that we even have dialogue in our outline. Yeah, it's a big deal. We've got it down now though. So that makes it feel like, because I already, when I get the manuscript and pull up my chapter, we have Kristen, by we I mean Kristen, has cut from the Google Doc thing, which I just barely where's the triangle? Okay, here we are. She has cut the outline work for my chapter and stuck it up there so I can read that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be writing. And I tend not to go rogue then. But sometimes, we call each other and we're both like, why isn't this chapter working? So then we have to redo some stuff. But it seems easier when I'm writing with Kristen. And I think it's because we do such in-depth outlining. And also because I'm only writing half a book. It's like, oh my God, it didn't take any time to do that. Well, it's because she's writing, 50,000 words, and I'm writing 50,000 words. So, and 50,000 words is basically a novella. So when I write by myself, I usually have a beginning scene, an ending scene, and some scenes in the middle. And then I sit down and I write myself a letter about what I want to happen. And then I work from the letter. And I can go rogue then. But I've learned from writing with this strict outline with Kristen that it really does work to put in the time before and to have a little more organized sense of where I'm going. It makes my writing cleaner, first drafts cleaner, and I'm more prolific. It makes me write faster too. But I love writing with Kristen.
Cool.
In our chat, Vianney says, thank you, PC. Your books were the first ones I read in English.
Oh, that's so awesome. I love hearing that. My English teacher heart's like, oh. hearing that.
All right, anyone else with the next question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you currently reading anything right now? Oh, sorry.
Oh man, I'm always reading stuff. Your hair is beautiful.
Thank you.
I just love it. I love my purple hands. It's so cool. Yes, I constantly read. Right now, I've been driving from Portland all the way down here, having events all the way. So I'm like totally binging audiobooks. I finished The Fourth Wing. You guys, so worth the hype. So worth the hype. It is the best dragon book I have read since Anne McCaffrey.
Whoa.
Buy this book, read this book. The audio's fantastic. The audio's fantastic. And then I read, listened to Drowning by the flight attendant turned bestseller. What she has initials. She uses initials. Don't read it if you're on a plane. I wasn't on a plane, and I was like, ooh, ooh. Her first book was Falling, and it's also an airline thing. You want an excellent couple thrillers. They are so, so good. And I just finished Daughter of the Moon Goddess and the sequel, the
Son of the Heart Warrior.
yeah, they were so good. Oh, their covers are just divine too. They're the most beautiful books, and her language is just so beautiful. They're so her description is just lovely. I loved hearing about she described the clothes and the setting just exquisitely. I was there. It was fabulous. I've been devouring a whole lot of women of color writers, and I encourage you to do the same. It is way past time that publishers open the door for people who don't look like me to tell stories of people who don't look like me. Not my play. I want them to tell their stories, and I am going to devour every one of them. I've read so many. You want an absolutely beautiful story that everyone should read in America by Cherie Dimaline, The Moral Thieves. It's short, it's little, it's incredible, and there's a sequel to it. And the sequel is fabulous too. Anything Cherie Dimaline writes, she's native, Indigenous Canadian. She's amazing. Rebecca Roanhorse, Black Sun. I can't remember. I've read like 5 of her books. Rebecca Roanhorse is amazing. I just look for women of color, you guys. They've Bloodmarked and Legendborn. Legendborn just, have you guys read those? Oh, read them. Bree, the heroine, is probably one of my favorite heroines in a really long time. You read Fourth Wing?
Yes.
You would love the heroine. Bree reminds me a lot of Violence. Her nickname, the heroine's nickname is Violence. Her real name is Violet. She's fantastic. They remind me a lot of each other, Bree and Violet do. Give them all a try. They're all so good. If you follow me on BookBub, I review them all, and they're all on there. There's tons of them. And I didn't find Mercy Thompson until like a year ago. I had all those books I got to read. And I don't even know why I hadn't, Trisha Briggs, she's fabulous. I've known that for ages. I just don't know why I didn't pick one up. Gone, they're all, I binged every one of them. If you haven't read Mercy Thompson, well, what do they call it? It's not the Mercy Thompson books. What do they call them? Moon stuff. They usually have moon in the title. What is it? Just
Moon Called Bloodbound.
Yeah, Moon Called Bloodbound. Yeah, all the.
I think they are called the Mercy.
Yeah, they might. Yeah. Well, they're fantastic. You guys probably already know that. Okay. But yeah, I love audiobooks. Love audiobooks. I can garden and read a book. I can bead and read a book. On the occasion I clean my house, I can clean my house and read a book. I do a whole lot of hiking. As voluptuous as I am. I do tons of hiking almost every day with those horrible Scotty dogs. And I'm always listening to a book while I'm doing that. Unless I'm wrestling with them and they're like, something, and then I have to pull it out, pick them up, and be like, oh, stop it. Oh, the children. But read everything, you guys. Any other questions?
What is your favorite character that you wrote in any of your series? Guys, that's real hard.
It's like choosing a favorite child, and I only have one.
But you have a favorite.
She's definitely my favorite. Although I call her partner my favorite son. So, I am loving Boudica. I finished it not too long ago. It's big. It's like 609 pages. She is so amazing. I have been researching her since 2007, and she just came alive. It's first person present tense, and I love it. I love her story so much. I love her. I love her cast of characters. I think you guys will absolutely love it too. Rebel Warrior Queen, that's what it's called. She might very well be my favorite. Of books out right now, probably Shannon Parker. Probably Shannon, even though from Divine by Mistake, Divine by Choice. The first book I had published was Goddess by Mistake. The titles were changed later to Divine and Not Goddess, but she's judgy in the first book, but then she grows up in the other ones. So that was my immaturity as a writer too.
I feel like
But,
Shannon had a lot of your early like teacher vibe too, because Shannon was a teacher and she teleported into this like mystical world.
That was the first book I wrote. Well, I'd written some really incredibly bad books before then. Really, I mean, one of them was called When Darkness Rises. So embarrassing. I will tell you a very embarrassing story. Okay. You're welcome, you guys. I just pretend like they're not listening. Right? You people. So I've been writing. I wrote my first book in first grade. I can't remember not being able to read and write, and I can't remember not wanting to be a teacher and an author. And so I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote. When I was in first grade, I wrote Blubby the Blue Whale, and it didn't get published yet. Okay. And then in eighth grade, I tried to write a Harlequin romance called Nurse Janice.
Whoa.
And it went well until I tried to move Nurse Janice from one scene to the other, and I couldn't figure out how to do that. Someone should have just told me back then, just end the chapter, start a new chapter. I could have kept going for a while then. Then in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s, I started working on this vampire book, and that was Nuada. That's the bad guys eventually who were in Divine by Mistake. And I wrote When Darkness Rises. Book was so bad. It was so horrible. But I was real proud of it. Okay. I sent it to my grandma, who I adored. My cousin is Ann Tyler, the Pulitzer Prize winning author. Yeah. Named after her mother. Yeah. My grandma, that's all on my matriarchal side. My grandmother sent that manuscript to Anne. And I'm pretty sure she read it. It was so bad. Okay, it was just absolutely horrendously horrible. God bless you. And that's my really embarrassing story. There's a lot of embarrassing things about that book. But I did take that book because it had a centaur in it and it had these bad guys. And years later, I cannibalized it and it became Gods by Mistake, the first book I had published. So, yes.
So what would current author you tell young author you, if you could give any advice?
Centaurs don't need two penises.
Just dragons.
Just dragons, right? Just make them shapeshifters from the beginning, PC. Now, I would also tell her that her life would be a lot easier if she learned to outline sooner. Well, I knew how to outline. I mean, my God, I've been teaching forever. I knew how to outline, I just didn't do it. If I had tried to outline sooner, I would have saved myself a lot of rewrites. But, I thought I could not. So I was wrong. It's better too. But And the double penis thing. Don't do it.
Congrats, you apparently made a viewer spit out their dinner.
Nailed it. Okay, my job is done here. Y'all are gonna cry, by the way. Lots of tears in this. There's a lot of, most of them are happy tears though. I can tell you.
What
There.
book have I not snot cried over?
Me too, though. I'm like Joe Wilder in Romancing the Stone, right? I'm at the end. The hair is, I mean, it's just, I'm wearing the same clothes, same pajamas, you know, house pajamas, and then you have outside pajamas during the Rona, especially.
Mhm.
I didn't wear hard pants for like 2 years. Okay. Now it's hell getting on hard pants again. But no, I when I write, if you guys are laughing at something, I have sat and cackled at it. If something scares you, it's usually freaking me the hell out. And if you're crying, you can always rest assured that I'm like this. Stopping, getting out of paper towels. And then I tell my daughter, I'm like, well, I just cried my eyes out. She's like, yes, yes.
Me during the first series of House of Mate with our favorite character.
Oh, Stevie Ray. Kristen didn't talk to me for 3 days after that.
I went through a whole
Jack,
box of
too.
tissues with Jack.
Me too, man. It was Jack or Grandma Redbird.
Oh, yeah.
One of them had to go. And my family and best friends told me if I kill Grandma Redbird, they're coming after me. So I had to, so Jack, I needed an innocence. Jack was the next one. So Jack had to go. But Jack came back in Love, Lost, Forgotten, and Found. So, and Found is, by the way, my favorite book of the entire House of Night series. Before that, it was Burned. Burned was the one before that. When, you know, he's, after that, his soul shatters and he's, yes.
I always love your covers. They're so striking. How much input do you have on them, or is it just like, this is what we think works for you, and you're like, approved?
I have a lot of, I can get a lot of input now until, as I'm sure you know, until you're a bestseller and you have some power, you can say things, but it's just cover luck, cover karma at first. And now I have a lot of input. All 4 of these books, I designed the cover. All of the Otherworld, the House of Night Otherworld, Love, Lost, Forgotten, Found. Blackstone's awesome. The head of their art department, and I sat down and we designed it together. We have a lot of feedback. The book that's coming out in the brand new series that's coming out, Draw Down the Moon. They just did a whole new thing for it because the first couple ones were just like, and then they brought in this amazing illustrator, and we've already seen the little sketches, and we're like, yes! But that you have to like be writing for a long time and sell a lot of books before you get listened to usually about that. But,
The slow progression of your name becoming larger than your titles.
right? That is the secret thing. And then my daughter saying, when can my name be on the top? I'm like, I said never. And she has a book coming out next summer with her good friend Pintip Dunn. It's called Seasick. It is a YA thriller set on a cruise ship, well, a yacht. And her name's on top. And I was like, there, you stop asking me, okay? Because I'm gonna say no every damn time, okay?
Not mentioned the fact that she's got 2 books with just her name on it.
She does have. See, she has books like but and it's hilarious that I'm always like, Kristen. People think that they're like, will Kristen sign it too? I'm like, Kristen is in it. She's not even read it. But I'm like, yeah, I'll never sign it. Whatever. But I have good cover karma too. I do. There's only one cover of mine that came out that I absolutely loathed, and I didn't have any power to do anything about it. The original trade paperback cover of Goddess of Love.
Oh, I hate that one. Sorry.
Isn't it ugly? The original trade
The
paperback.
pink one? Oh,
Yeah,
it was so bad.
I know. It was so bad.
Yeah.
I had zero power then. My editor back then, Christine Zika, She was my editor for all the Goddess Summoning books, and she and I were really good friends. And when that came out, I mean, I had no power or anything. When that came out, we were both like,
It looked nothing like
the
previous
other one.
Goddess series.
And then when I became bestseller, and they redid them all. They redid that one, thank God. But it didn't look like anything. And then all of them were goddess of something: goddess of the sea, goddess of spring, goddess of the rose. Until I did a retelling of the Trojan War.
Warrior Rising.
Warrior Rising. That's what they called the book in the Goddess Summoning series. And they also changed that later to Goddess of Troy, I think. But it makes no sense. It makes no sense. You don't really have a lot of an author doesn't really traditionally published author doesn't have a lot of control over title.
Interesting.
It goes well, like this was supposed to be Earthwalker, and when they decided to publish it, sales said Earthwalker the name wasn't tracking well, so they said, how about Earthcall? And usually when sales tells you something like that, yeah, you should. I mean, I'm like, okay, I really liked Earthwalker, but okay. So, because I want to sell books. So, like, what did I call? Oh, my Goddess of the Sea. I said I wanted to call it Tears of the Mermaid. You just title them something and then they change it usually. So.
As a little peek behind the veil, when you say the title wasn't tracking, do they do like internal, like, okay, what do
They
y'all
do
think of this?
internal, and then they also talk to buyers, talk
Oh.
to book buyers. And if they're all just like, meh, then they start changing it. Or, sometimes they find out that other books coming out have had the same kind of title and it's too close to the same genre and time. And usually when Chris and I are titling and thinking that we might get to keep the title, we do quick searches to make sure that, go to Amazon and just put in the title and see what comes up. Just trying not to not get attached to a title and then have them rip it away from us, which, but if the sales aren't tracking, all right. Because I don't want it to be my fault if something doesn't sell. Like the Disasters was a disaster when it released. Like 5 people bought it, and I'm glad that I didn't even make up that title. I don't think so. Even bestsellers have books that bomb, and that book bombed hard. And then the contract became Sisters of Salem trilogy, and that was fun. But I liked the book, but I guess no one else did.
Yeah, it was when everybody was worrying about superheroes then too, and no one was buying
It was a superhero book, and no one was buying them. And it wasn't just Kristen and me. There were like, at the same time that we got that canceled that contract, there were like 4 other bestsellers who had superhero books come out. Some of them sold even worse than ours did, which took some doing. It's like if your mom and dad bought it, you sold better.
What type of research did you have to do for this series, or at least this book?
This one?
Yeah.
I did a whole lot of like ecological research. I did a lot of my dad is a biologist. He taught science and biology for a million years, and he has made sure that all of my my ecosystems work. And I talked to him a lot as I was building the world of Tales of a New World. That's where those giant cockroaches came in that are like the size of terriers, and all the like sciencey biology stuff should all work because the sciencey biologist helped me with all that. He has always like helped me with all of my. I'm sorry, my dad's really ill, and so it's. Whew.
Well, hopefully you won't get the biologist with pitchforks coming after you going,
Right.
how dare you? You got it wrong.
Yeah, okay. Easy to catch now, too, he's sick. Okay, so go after him.
Have you ever had that moment with a reader point something out and go, how could you get this wrong? Or like any moments like that? Because I've heard moments, obviously, as a bookseller here, of authors like, oh my God, I got a Glock wrong. And so a gun person was all after me. Have you ever had moments like that?
Yeah, yes. And it really made me feel stupid, too, because like in the most recent one I can think of is Into the Mist. my heroine, Mercury, she has a 38. She finds a 38, a pistol. I am a responsible gun owner. It's locked up. And I was in the Air Force. I'm a veteran. And I took a concealed carry course too. I'm a responsible gun owner. And it's locked up and everything, but I have a 38. It doesn't have safety on it. And all into the mist, I had her clicking off the safety. It wasn't until the copy editor didn't catch it. It wasn't until someone reviewed it and was like, men hate that book anyway. Well, straight men hate that book anyway. The gays love it. But, and so it was one of them who said to me, this is crap. She hates all men. And she can't figure out that there's no safety on a 38. I was like, no. I went back to my room and unlocked the thing, and I was like, shit. Got it mixed up with a gloss, damn it.
That's the worst part when they're right.
I know, right? In this book, you guys will see. In this book, you do an edit, rewrite with your editor, right? And then after that, it goes to your copy editor. Your copy editor is the one who's supposed to catch there's no safety on 38, Or one of my best friends wrote a book where she had them descaling a catfish. Well, you skin catfish; they don't have scales.
Right.
Okay, that's the stuff copy editor they figure out. And so I made a bunch of changes, found a bunch of my errors, and fix them. And they query you and say, "Did you really mean this? Because this doesn't sound like." For instance, copy editor said the Wolverine cubby that O'Brien finds in Wind Rider is a male cubby. I thought, okay, I did reread the books before I started writing Earth Call. I could have sworn Cubby was a girl. So in Earth Call, Cubby's a girl. So it got flagged, and it was like, Cubby's a boy in Wind Rider. And again, I was like, nuh-uh. Open up Wind Rider, and I was like, shit. So I wrote, do a swap thing. Cubby should be a he. And there's a few other things like that I specifically remember, like 2 characters that had R in their first and their last names. They were right together, and I accidentally mixed them up. I did it all the time at House Night with Aphrodite and Anastasia. I think because they're 2 A words long, my fingers just went a few of those errors. But I fixed them all in copy edit and then caught the rest of them in line edit. So, book's gone. ARCs are out. ARCs always have mistakes in them. Don't care about that. Book's printed though, and I get a query from my from Macmillan Audio. Caitlin Davies did all these. Caitlin's awesome. She's a voice actress who did all this. Caitlin had a query. She's like, sometimes Cubby's a girl and sometimes Cubby's a boy. I thought he was a boy, and I was like, he is. I fixed it, and like 3 other things that I remember fixing. So, emailed my editor and was like, "What is happening?" And she said, "Oh, she must have an old manuscript. She must have gotten an old, like the pre-copy edited manuscript." She said, "I'll get it right." She didn't.
Oh.
Not all the changes got in it. And so you don't have to message me and tell me, is Cubby, Cubby is gender fluid. Okay, Cubby's gender fluid, that's all.
It's like when the gays call each other girl.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and so I know about those. I know about those mistakes. And someone zinged me on a review already. My book that took this long to come out, she certainly made a lot of mistakes. I'm like, but she fixed them. And then they were like, and why isn't this holographic? She doesn't have a control over that. Okay, it's kind of sort of holographic on the front. Nah, they didn't. They left the.
I mean, that's first world problems. My
Right?
God. How dare my book not be holographic?
I'm like, I can't control that. Okay, and I thought it was. And my editor changed midway through this book. She went to head up a line in Tor. We have a lovely new editor, but I know that things get lost and things happen, but
Yeah.
I'm just grateful the book's out, and I promise you the inside's good. Whether it has perhaps a few errors or not.
I can't wait to see it on the Facebook.
Oh my God.
Because they do it all the time with the House of Night.
All the time. It's gonna just
It's like, no, we can't change it.
no. Yeah, I still get like in redeemed, or like no better even like in hunted, or one of the like books that have been out for a decade. I found you switched Aphrodite and Anastasia's name. I'm like, I know it.
Let it die.
Man, if you got the right, and every time I find them, I let them know. I let Macmillan know, or whoever my publisher is for the book. And I'm like, I'm sorry, on page blah, 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 could you on, so on reprints, they're fixed. But it's like, you got a lucky copy. This is a first edition with mistake. Yeah.
It's a misprint.
It's a misprint. She didn't do it.
With Nora's hair instead of red, it was black.
That was in very early Neferret. Yep. And I even remember correcting that during copy edits way back in March. And then it came out and she had auburn hair and then black hair. And I was like, no, she didn't. How did that even happen? I don't know. It's not in there anymore. But as a matter of fact, I have begun going back through House of Night. I have asked Macmillan since 2016. I've been begging them to let me go back in and rework the problematic 2005 language. I really wanted to sound like the teenagers surrounding me. And in Oklahoma, at about that time, their favorite word was retard. And I didn't use the word, but I put it in there because I wanted the kids to be able to identify with it. They're all gone now, dude. I've gone back and fixed all that. I did a really shitty job of describing people of colored skin. Lattes, right? Mocha,
Mocha latte.
right? And the mocha latte. Cappuccino maybe too, perhaps. I'm a better author now. I know better. I fixed them all. There was a lot of slut shaming going on that Zoe learned from, but she didn't learn from fast enough. So when I've gone back through them, I've made her transition happen a little bit sooner. And they're just, so the first three are I've gone through them already. In ebooks, they've been changed. And I just saw yesterday, and it was either edition 48 or 49, but it's the only number on it. I think it's 48. And it's also the new copy. So I know that as they're reprinting them, they're reprinting the fixes, and I'm going to go through the whole series. I don't need to go through the Otherworld series. And as I get further and further into the series, I barely have to do anything because I dropped a lot of that stuff done. But when you know better, do better. And I did this all by myself. No one else did it. I asked because I've announced this before, and I don't want to shock you. White people are entitled big time. And part of that entitlement was, you can hear by their reaction, is it really sucks that someone made you change your book. No one made me change my book. I changed my book because I can make it better, because I want to fix a problem. I know better, I do better. So don't ever think that, Dr. Seuss's family did the same thing. They realized that his early books sound super racist. And they're like, nope, this is not who he was. And it's also, the mistakes are not who I was. Well, it's who I was, but I'm better now. So
I think what more of a better way to leave off tonight's event. Everyone, one more round of applause for PVC. Thank you so much. Woo! Virtual audience, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, you can still get your signed books. Just make sure you buy them now. Maybe later. We'll have to stop.
Oh my God, are there people watching?
Oh my gosh, there's people here. All right, everyone, we're going to start our signing. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye, you guys.